The chamber was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the space between three ancient stars, a hollow sphere of crystal and light that stretched across 50 kilometers. Inside, galleries rose in endless tiers, filled with representatives from over 600 spacefaring civilizations. They had gathered here for 10,000 years to debate, to trade, and to pass judgment on the affairs of the galaxy. Today, they had gathered to judge humanity. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood on a platform at the exact center of the chamber. The platform was barely 10 meters wide, designed to make those who stood upon it feel small. Around him, in every direction, alien eyes watched. Some were curious. Most were hostile. A few showed something worse. Pity. Thomas was 53 years old. He had gray hair, steady hands, and a reputation for staying calm in impossible situations. That reputation was about to be tested. Beside him stood Admiral Grace Oilerin, commander of Earth's Third Fleet. She was tall, dark-skinned, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had fought in 3 wars and won all of them. Her uniform was simple black cloth with silver buttons. She had refused to wear anything ceremonial. The third member of their delegation was Dr. Emil Kowalski, a linguist who had spent 20 years learning to communicate with alien species. He was pale, thin, and looked terrified. Thomas did not blame him. They all should have been terrified. Above them, descending on a column of manipulated gravity, came the Arbiter. The Arbiter was not a single being, but a collective intelligence. 3 ancient minds merged into one form of shifting silver light. It had served the Council for 4,000 years. It had never shown mercy. Species designation. Humanity, the Arbiter spoke, and every translator in the chamber hummed with its words. Origin. Soul system. Galactic presence. 97 years. You stand accused of the following crimes against the Galactic Compact. The accusations appeared in the air around them, written in light. Thomas counted them silently. There were 23. Unauthorized military expansion. Violation of territorial boundaries. Destruction of protected ecosystems. Theft of proprietary technology. Acts of war against 7 member species. And at the end, in letters that burned brighter than the rest, the extinction of the Valori Confederacy. The galleries erupted. Sounds of rage and fear echoed through the chamber. Thomas could identify some of them. The clicking of the Vesari, insect-like beings who had been calling for humanity's destruction for decades. The deep rumbling of the Morvith, giants made of living stone who had lost 3 colony worlds to human expansion. The high-pitched whistling of the Kali, traders who claimed humanity had stolen their hyperspace technology. And watching from the highest gallery, silent and still, the Nethrani Dominion, the oldest civilization in the galaxy, the founders of the Council, the only species that had ever defeated a devourer and lived. The Arbiter raised one limb of silver light, and the chamber fell silent. How does humanity answer these charges? Thomas had prepared for this moment his entire career. He had studied every council trial in recorded history. He had learned the laws, the customs, the traditions. He knew that the accused were expected to show humility, to beg for mercy, to accept whatever punishment the council decided. Thomas did none of these things. "Before I answer," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space, "I invoke the right of first context." The chamber went completely still. The right of first context was an ancient law, rarely used. It allowed the accused to present evidence before entering a plea. It had not been invoked in 600 years. "You cannot," hissed Ambassador Thesok, the lead Thesari representative. Her mandibles dripped with acid as she spoke. "That right is reserved for species who have contributed to galactic welfare. Humanity has contributed nothing but death." "On the contrary," Thomas replied calmly, Humanity has contributed something unprecedented, something that this council has been praying for since the day it was founded. He paused, letting the silence stretch. We have killed a devourer. The reaction was immediate. Half the chamber began screaming. The other half fell into shocked silence. Even the Netherani shifted in their seats, their ancient eyes focusing on the small human below. The Arbiter's form flickered with what might have been surprise. You claim to have destroyed a devourer? This is impossible. Devourers cannot be destroyed. They can only be contained. The Valori said the same thing. Admiral Oilerin spoke for the first time. Her voice was hard and cold. Right before they begged us to prove them wrong, Thomas raised his hand, and a holographic display activated above the platform. It showed a star system, beautiful and peaceful. 7 planets orbiting a yellow sun. The Valori homeworld. 3 years ago, we received a transmission from the Valori Confederacy. They had found something in the deep mines of their 4th moon. Something ancient. Something that had been sleeping for millions of years. Thomas's voice dropped lower. Something that woke up hungry. The display shifted. Now it showed chaos. Ships fleeing. Cities burning. Billions of Valori screaming as something vast and dark spread across their world like a plague. The Valori did not call the Council for help. They knew the Council's protocol. Containment. Sacrifice the infected system. Seal it behind gravity wells and let the devourer starve over millennia. Thomas shook his head. 40 billion people. Left to die slowly while the galaxy watched and did nothing. That protocol has protected the galaxy for 10,000 years, the Arbiter said. That protocol is cowardice, Thomas replied. The Valori knew it. So they called someone else. They called the only species in the galaxy with a reputation for doing impossible things. The species that had fought the Morvith to a standstill with ships held together by prayer and determination. The species that had stolen hyperspace technology and improved it beyond anything the Kali had ever imagined. He looked up at the galleries, meeting the eyes of species who hated him, species who feared him, species who wanted him dead. They called humanity, and we answered. The display changed again. Now it showed human ships, hundreds of them, jumping into the Valori system. They were small compared to Council vessels, crude, primitive, but there were so many of them. 400 ships, Admiral Oilerin said. The 2nd and 3rd fleets. Every vessel we could spare. We jumped into that system knowing we might not come back. And what did you find? The Arbiter asked. Thomas closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were filled with something the Council had never seen from a human before. Something like grief. We found hell, he said quietly. 70% of the Valori population was already infected, turned into puppets, weapons. The Devourer was using their own people against them, spreading through their psychic network like a virus. Then why did you not withdraw? Vesok demanded. Why did you not follow protocol? Because the Valori asked us not to. Thomas pulled up one final recording. A face appeared in the display. A Valori female, her skin pale and her eyes filled with terror, but her voice steady. Human Admiral, she said in the recording. I am Prime Minister Velith. I speak for what remains of my people. The Devourer cannot be contained. It is learning. Learning about hyperspace. Learning about the lanes that connect every world in the galaxy. When it finishes feeding on us, it will use those lanes to spread everywhere. The Prime Minister took a shaking breath. We cannot stop it. We can only give you the chance to. I am transmitting the coordinates of its core. You must destroy everything. Our worlds. Our ships. Our people. Let nothing survive. I beg you, Human Admiral. Kill us all. Save everyone else. The recording ended. The chamber was silent. Even the Thesari had stopped clicking. Thomas looked up the Nethrani gallery. The ancient beings had not moved. The Valori gave us a choice, he said. We could follow your protocol. We could leave them to die slowly. We could let the Devourer learn and grow and spread to every corner of the galaxy. His voice hardened. Or we could do what no species has ever done. We could kill a god. Admiral Oilerin stepped forward. We armed every antimatter warhead in our arsenal. We targeted every planet in the system. And when the Valori Prime Minister gave the final order, we fired. You murdered 40 billion people, Thesok shrieked. No, Thomas said quietly. We granted their final wish. We saved the galaxy. And we killed the Devourer. He turned to face the Arbiter directly. You ask how humanity answers your charges. Here is my answer. We did what needed to be done. We carried a weight that no other species was willing to carry. And we will do it again as many times as necessary, because someone has to. The Arbiter's form shifted to a deep crimson. You speak of killing one Devourer. But the records show that since the Valori sacrifice, human fleets have destroyed 12 more sealed Devourers across the galaxy. 12 systems erased. Explain. Thomas smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The Nethrani gave us a gift after Valori. A star chart showing every sealed Devourer in the galaxy. There are hundreds. The seals are failing. In 50 years, maybe less, they will all break free. He spread his hands. So we have been doing what we do best. We have been hunting. From the highest gallery, a voice spoke for the first time. It was ancient, like stones grinding together, like stars dying. The human speaks truth. Every eye in the chamber turned to the Nethrani delegation. The speaker was their eldest, a being called simply the Voice, who had lived for 15,000 years. We gave them the chart. We have watched them work. They are brutal. They are terrifying. They are exactly what this galaxy needs. Thesok rose in fury. You admit to conspiring with these monsters? Monsters? The voice made a sound that might have been laughter. We created the seals 10,000 years ago because we could not destroy the Devourers. We, the most advanced civilization ever to exist, failed. These humans, with their primitive ships and their stubborn refusal to accept defeat, have succeeded where we could not. The voice turned its ancient gaze to Thomas. The question is not whether humanity is guilty. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to accept what humanity offers. Thomas nodded slowly. We are not asking for forgiveness. We are not asking for approval. We are offering a choice. Join us, and we will hunt the Devourers together. Stand against us, and we will hunt them alone. Either way, the hunting will continue. The Arbiter's form flickered. The Council will deliberate. But before we adjourn, I must ask, what guarantee do we have that humanity will not turn this power against the Council itself? Admiral Oilerin laughed. It was a hard, bitter sound. You want a guarantee? Here is your guarantee. The Devourers are waking up. All of them. Something has disturbed their slumber. Something is calling them. And when they rise, they will not care about treaties or borders or ancient feuds. They will consume everything. She stepped to the edge of the platform, staring up at the assembled species. You can execute us today. You can destroy our fleets and burn our worlds. But who will fight the Devourers when we are gone? You? The Thesari? The Morvith? She shook her head. You have been hiding behind protocols and seals for 10,000 years. We have been fighting wars since before we learned to write. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire chamber. We are humanity. We are very good at killing things that need to be killed. And right now, you need us far more than you want to admit. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species screamed at each other. Alliances formed and shattered in moments. The Arbiter called for order, but no one listened. And in the highest gallery, the voice of the Nethrani watched the small human delegation with something that might have been hope. Thomas Reed stood calmly in the center of the storm, waiting. The trial had just begun. 3 years earlier, the distress call had arrived at midnight. Admiral Victor Harmon was asleep in his quarters aboard the battleship, relentless when his communications officer woke him. The young man was pale, his hands shaking as he handed over the tablet. "Sir, you need to hear this." It came through on the emergency frequency, the one we reserve for first contact situations. Victor took the tablet and pressed play. The voice that emerged was desperate, broken by static and interference. But the translator software worked well enough to convey the horror. "This is Prime Minister Veleth of the Valori Confederacy. We are dying. Something has awakened in our system, something ancient and hungry. Our fleet is gone. Our defenses have failed. The Council has abandoned us to containment protocol." There was a pause, filled with the sounds of explosions and screaming. "We have heard stories of your kind. The humans. They say you fight without fear. They say you never surrender. They say you do impossible things." The voice cracked with emotion. "Please, we beg you, come to us. If you cannot save us, then end us quickly. Do not let this creature use our bodies to spread its evil across the stars." The transmission ended with coordinates and a final, whispered plea. "Help us." Victor sat in silence for a long moment. Then he called an emergency meeting of his command staff. Within the hour, the Second Fleet was mobilizing. Captain Maria Santos commanded the destroyer Swift Justice. She was 42 years old, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that had seen too many battles. When the orders came through, she gathered her crew on the main deck. "Listen carefully," she said. "We are jumping into a situation that no human has ever faced. The Valori have awakened something called a devourer. Our intelligence says these things are ancient, powerful, and supposedly impossible to kill." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. Some were afraid. Most were determined. The Council's protocol is to abandon infected systems, to let billions of people die slowly while the threat is contained. We are not going to follow that protocol. A murmur ran through the crew. We are going to do something different. We are going to fight. Maybe we will win. Maybe we will die. But we will not abandon people who called us for help. The crew responded with a roar of approval. 2 days later, the Second Fleet jumped into the Valori system. What they found was worse than anything the briefings had prepared them for. Devourer had spread across 3 of the 7 planets. It was not a creature in any normal sense. It was more like a disease, a corruption that infected living things and turned them into extensions of itself. The Valori who had been consumed still walked and talked, but their minds were gone, replaced by a single vast intelligence that hungered for more. Dr. Helena Vance was the fleet's chief scientist. She worked frantically aboard the research vessel Curiosity, trying to understand what they were facing. "It feeds on consciousness," she reported to Admiral Harmon via secure channel. "Not just bodies, minds, memories, everything that makes a person who they are. When it consumes someone, it absorbs their knowledge, their skills, their understanding of the universe. Can it be killed?" Harmon asked. Helena hesitated. "I do not know, but I have discovered something disturbing. This thing is not natural. It was engineered. Someone, millions of years ago, created it as a weapon. A weapon against what? I do not know that either. But whatever they were fighting, they wanted to make sure nothing survived." Harmon ended the call and stared at the tactical display. The Devourer's infected ships were moving toward the hyperspace lane that led out of the system. If even one of them escaped, the corruption would spread to other worlds. He made a decision. All ships implement containment formation. Nothing leaves this system. Nothing. The battle that followed lasted 3 days. Captain Santos and the Swift Justice were assigned to the containment perimeter. Their job was simple: destroy any infected vessel that tried to escape. The reality was anything but simple. The infected ships were crewed by Valori, who had once been friends, families, citizens of a peaceful civilization. They screamed as they attacked, their voices twisted by the thing that controlled them. Some begged for death. Others begged for the humans to join them, to become part of something greater. Santos ordered her weapons to fire again and again. On the second day, an infected carrier broke through the line. It was massive, carrying thousands of infected Valori, heading straight for the hyperspace lane. Santos calculated the angles. Her weapons could not stop it in time. The Swift Justice was not fast enough to intercept, but there was one option left. "All hands, brace for impact," she said calmly. "We are going to ram that carrier." Her first officer grabbed her arm. "Captain, if we hit them at this speed, we will destroy both ships." "I know." Santos met his eyes. "If that carrier escapes, billions more will die. This is what we signed up for." The Swift Justice accelerated to maximum speed. On the bridge, crew members said prayers, wrote final messages, held each other's hands. The collision was catastrophic. Both ships disintegrated in a flash of light and fire. Captain Maria Santos and 140 crew members died instantly. The hyperspace lane remained closed. News of the sacrifice spread through the fleet. Morale should have collapsed. Instead, it hardened into something fierce and determined. If one ship could give everything, so could they all. On the third day, Prime Minister Velith made contact again. She appeared on Admiral Harmon's screen, her face pale and drawn. Behind her, through a window, the surface of her world burned. "Human Admiral," she said quietly, "I have watched your fleet fight. You have given more than we had any right to ask." "We do not abandon those who call for help," Harmon replied. Velith nodded slowly. "Then I must ask one more thing. The hardest thing." She transmitted a set of coordinates. "This is the location of the Devourer's core, its central consciousness. If you destroy it, the infection will collapse. The consumed will die, but they will die free." Harmon studied the coordinates. The core was at the heart of the most heavily infected planet. Reaching it would require destroying everything in the way. "You are asking us to kill your world," he said. "I am asking you to save the galaxy." Velith's voice broke. 8 billion of my people are already gone. The rest will follow soon. We are not asking to be saved. We are asking to be ended before we become a weapon against everyone else." Harmon was silent for a long moment. "I need your authorization," he said finally. "Recorded and transmitted to every ship in my fleet. I will not give this order without your consent." Velith straightened in her chair. Despite everything, despite the horror and the loss and the certainty of death, she still carried herself like a leader. "I, Prime Minister Velith of the Valori Confederacy, speaking for my people in our final hour, hereby request that the human fleet designated Second Fleet destroy our homeworld and all infected territories. Let nothing survive. Let the Devourer die with us. This is our choice. This is our gift to the galaxy." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "Tell them we were not afraid at the end. Tell them we chose how we died." The transmission ended. Harmon sat alone in his quarters for an hour. Then he called his command staff and gave the order. "Arm all antimatter warheads. Target every infected planet. Prepare for full planetary bombardment." His weapons officer, Commander James Okafor, hesitated. "Sir, The fleet is carrying enough antimatter to destroy 10 systems. If we use it all here, we will have nothing left for the journey home. I know. Harmon met his eyes. Do it anyway. The bombardment began at dawn on the 4th day. Dr. Helena Vance watched from the Curiosity as the first warhead struck. Each explosion was like a small sun, vaporizing everything within hundreds of kilometers. The Devourer screamed in the psychic spectrum, a sound of rage and pain that echoed through every sensitive mind in the galaxy. It is dying, Helena reported, her voice filled with wonder and horror. The core consciousness is fragmenting. It cannot maintain control of the infected. Keep firing, Harmon ordered. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. When it was over, 3 planets had been reduced to molten rock. 2 more had been shattered into asteroid fields. The Valory homeworld was a cloud of expanding plasma, slowly cooling in the void. 40 billion people were dead, and the Devourer was silent. Helena ran test after test, checking for any sign of the corruption. There was nothing. The infection had been completely eradicated. Confirmed kill, she reported. The Devourer is dead. Harmon received the news without celebration. He walked to the observation deck and stood alone. Watching the debris field where a civilization had once thrived. His communications officer found him there an hour later. Sir, we are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The Council is demanding an explanation. The Nethrani Dominion is requesting direct contact. The Vesari are calling for our immediate destruction. Harmon did not turn around. What about Earth Command? They are sending reinforcements, and they want to know what happened. Harmon finally turned. His face was older than it had been a week ago. His eyes carried a weight that would never fully lift. Tell them we did what needed to be done. Tell them we killed a god. He paused. And tell them to prepare for the consequences. The galaxy just learned what humanity is capable of. They will not forget. He walked past the officer, heading for the bridge. Sir? The officer called after him. What do we do now? Harmon stopped at the door. Now we go home. We bury our dead. We mourn the Valori. He looked back over his shoulder. And then we prepare for the next one. Because if there was one Devourer, there will be others. And when they wake up, humanity needs to be ready. He disappeared through the door. Behind him, through the observation windows, the debris of a dead civilization slowly spread across the stars. It would eventually form a new nebula, beautiful and haunting. A monument to the species that had chosen extinction over becoming a weapon. The Valori were gone, but their sacrifice would not be forgotten. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, in sealed vaults and forgotten prisons, the other Devourers stirred in their ancient sleep. They had felt one of their kind die, for the first time, in millions of years. They knew fear. The star chart arrived 3 weeks after the Valori. Sacrifice. Admiral Victor Harmon was meeting with Earth Command when his tablet buzzed with an encrypted transmission. The sender was listed as unknown, but the encryption itself was a message. It used mathematical patterns that humanity had never seen before. Patterns that could only come from one source. The Nethrani. Harmon excused himself from the meeting and found a secure room. When he opened the transmission, a holographic star map filled the space around him. It showed the entire galaxy, every known system and territory marked with precise detail. But there were other marks too. Hundreds of them. Small red dots scattered across thousands of light years. A voice accompanied the map, ancient and strange. Human Admiral, we have watched your actions at Valori. We have debated among ourselves for 10,000 years about what to do when the seals began to fail. Now you have given us an answer we never expected. The voice paused. Each red mark represents a sealed devourer. The seals were created by my people in the early days of the Council. They were meant to last forever. They will not. Within 50 standard years, most will fail. When that happens, the galaxy will face an extinction event unlike anything in recorded history. Harmon stared at the map. He counted the marks. There were over 400. You killed one devourer with 400 ships and total antimatter expenditure. To kill all of them, you would need resources beyond anything your species possesses. The voice grew quieter. But you would try anyway. We know this about you now. You do not calculate odds. You do not accept defeat. You simply fight until you win or die. The map zoomed in on a cluster of red marks near the galactic core. These 12 seals are failing fastest. They will break within 5 years. We are sending you their coordinates and all intelligence we have gathered over millennia. Use it well. The transmission ended. Harmon stood alone in the dark room, surrounded by the ghost light of 400 death sentences. Then he called Earth. Command back. We have work to do. Captain. Elena Frost was 35 years old when she received command of the destroyer Midnight. Son. She had served in the Centauri War, survived 2 boarding actions, and earned a reputation for creative problem-solving under pressure. None of that prepared her for what came next. Her orders were simple. Jump to the coordinates provided. Locate the sealed devourer. Destroy it before it could awaken. The reality was anything but simple. The first target was in an uninhabited system, a dead star orbited by frozen rocks. The seal was a construct of pure energy, a sphere of light that held something dark and vast trapped at its center. When the midnight sun arrived, Elena could feel the wrongness of it even through the ship's hull. Weapons status, she ordered. Antimatter torpedoes loaded and ready, her weapons officer reported. But Captain, our scans show the seal is still intact. The thing inside is sleeping. Elena studied the tactical display. The Nethrani had warned them that disturbing a sleeping devourer was dangerous. The bombardment had to be precise, overwhelming, and instantaneous. Any delay would give the creature time to wake and defend itself. All batteries, target the center of the seal. Fire on my command. She paused, watching the sphere of light pulse slowly in the darkness. Fire. The torpedoes struck simultaneously. The seal shattered. For one terrible moment, the devourer began to stir, its consciousness reaching out toward the ships that had attacked it. Then, the antimatter detonated. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, nothing remained but cooling plasma and scattered atoms. Confirmed kill, her science officer announced, his voice shaking. No signs of corruption. The devourer is destroyed. Elena allowed herself one moment of relief. Then she checked the mission parameters. How many more targets? 11 remaining in this sector. She nodded grimly. Set course for the next coordinates. We are not stopping until they are all dead. Over the next 2 years, humanity hunted devourers across the galaxy. The operations were classified at the highest level. Earth Command created a new division called the Extinction Response Force, staffed by veterans of the Valori Sacrifice and volunteers who understood what they were signing up for. Captain. Jonas Berk commanded the strike force that destroyed the Devourer at Kepler 186. His ship, the Hammer of Dawn, was nearly consumed when the creature woke faster than expected. Berk ordered his crew to evacuate, then piloted the ship directly into the Devourer's core and detonated the reactor. Commander Lisa Park led the assault on the twin Devourers in the Omega Nebula. Her tactics involved using decoy ships to draw the creatures' attention while the main fleet positioned for simultaneous strikes. The plan worked, but 22 ships were lost in the process. Dr. Marcus Webb, a xenobiologist working with the Extinction Response Force, discovered that devourers communicated with each other across vast distances. Every time one was killed, the others felt it. They were becoming aware that something was hunting them. "They are adapting," Webb warned Admiral Harmon. "The ones we have not reached yet are waking early, preparing defenses. Each hunt will be harder than the last." Harmon accepted this news without surprise. "Then we will adapt too. Humanity has been fighting uphill battles since the first cave dweller picked up a rock. This is no different." By the end of the second year, humanity had killed 12 devourers. The galaxy noticed. The council convened emergency sessions to discuss the human threat. Some species demanded intervention. Others, quietly, began sending representatives to Earth, seeking alliances and offering resources. The Nethrani remained silent, watching. And then, on the anniversary of the Valori sacrifice, everything changed. Elena Frost was commanding a patrol near the border of human space when her sensors detected something impossible. A massive energy signature, larger than anything in human records, moving through hyperspace toward the galactic core. "What is that?" Her first officer whispered. Elena enhanced the image. What she saw made her blood run cold. It was a devourer, but not like the ones they had been hunting. Those were ancient, weakened by millions of years of imprisonment. This one was fully awake, fully fed. It moved through space like a living storm, surrounded by clouds of corrupted ships and consumed worlds. "That is impossible," her science officer said. "Our intelligence showed no active devourers. They were all sealed." Elena was already reaching for the communications console. "There must have been one we missed, one that was never sealed in the first place." She opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Captain Frost of the Midnight Sun. Emergency Priority Alpha. We have visual confirmation of an active, fully awakened devourer, designation unknown. It is moving toward the galactic core at high speed. Estimated arrival at major population centers in 72 hours. The response came within minutes, directly from Admiral Harmon. "Captain Frost, we have received your transmission. All available fleets are being mobilized. Your orders are to track and observe only. Do not engage." Repeat, do not engage. Elena acknowledged the order, but as she watched the massive entity move through space, she knew the truth. This was different from the sealed devourers they had been killing. This creature had been feeding for who knew how long, growing stronger with every mind it consumed. Their tactics might not work. Their weapons might not be enough. Humanity had been hunting monsters. Now, a monster was hunting them. She opened a channel to her crew. "Listen carefully. We have located what may be the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. Our orders are to observe and report. But I want all of you to understand something." She paused, looking at the image of the devourer on her screen. "If that thing reaches our colonies, billions will die. If it reaches Earth, our species ends. Whatever happens in the next 72 hours, remember that we are the first line of defense. We may not be able to kill it, but we can slow it down. We can buy time for the fleets to arrive." Her weapons officer spoke quietly. "Captain, against something that size, we would last maybe 5 minutes." Elena smiled grimly. "Then we will make those 5 minutes count." She turned back to the console. "All hands to battle stations. Track that creature and start calculating firing solutions. If it changes course toward any inhabited system, we engage. Those are my standing orders until relieved." The midnight sun moved deeper into the darkness, following the trail of destruction left by the awakened god. Behind them, across human space, the fleets were mobilizing. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so. Quiet Dot representatives from 600 species sat frozen in their galleries, watching the tactical display that filled the center of the vast space. The display showed the awakened devourer, designated Apex by human intelligence, as it carved a path of destruction toward the galactic core dot in the past 48 hours. Apex had consumed 3 inhabited systems, 14 billion lives erased, entire civilizations reduced to corrupted servants of the ancient entity, and it was heading straight for the Council. Headquarters. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood on the central platform, flanked by Admiral Grace Eulerin and Dr. Emil Kowalski. They had been summoned from their trial to address the emergency. The irony was not lost on anyone. 20 hours, Thomas said, his voice carrying through the chamber. That is how long you have before Apex arrives at this station. 20 hours to evacuate, to prepare, to pray. Ambassador Thesok rose from her gallery, her mandibles clicking with barely controlled fury. This is your fault. Your hunting awakened this creature. Your actions have doomed us all. The hunting did not awaken Apex, Dr. Kowalski replied calmly. Our research shows it was never sealed. It has been moving through the outer reaches of the galaxy for millennia, feeding slowly, growing stronger. Our hunting simply drew its attention. Then you have led it here, Thesok hissed. No. Admiral Eulerin stepped forward. Apex is not coming here because of us. It is coming here because this is where the most minds are concentrated. 600 species gathered in one place. To a devourer, this station is the greatest feast in galactic history. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species screamed at each other, blamed each other, demanded impossible solutions. Some began evacuating immediately, rushing toward the docking bays in panic. The Arbiter called for order. When that failed, it activated the chamber's emergency suppression field, freezing everyone in place. Enough, the Arbiter said. Panic serves no purpose. We must decide what to do. What can we do? The speaker was Ambassador Morvith, representative of the living stone giants. Our fleets are scattered. Our weapons are designed for conventional warfare. Against a fully awakened devourer, we have nothing. Thomas raised his hand. We have something. All eyes turned to him. Humanity has been preparing for this possibility since the day we received the Nethrani star chart. We knew that eventually we would face a devourer we could not surprise. A creature that was awake, aware, and ready to fight. He activated a display showing the positions of human fleets across the galaxy. In the past 48 hours, every combat-capable vessel in human space has been mobilizing. 1,200 ships, including our entire 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fleets. They are converging on this location. Thesok laughed bitterly. 1,200 ships against that thing? You might as well throw rocks at a hurricane. Perhaps, Thomas admitted. But we have something else. Something we have been developing in secret since the Valori sacrifice. Admiral Eulerin took over. During our study of the Devourers, we discovered that they are vulnerable to a specific type of quantum disruption. The Nethrani knew about this vulnerability, but lacked the technology to exploit it. We did not. She pulled up a schematic of a device, unlike anything the Council had seen. We call it the Thanatos device. It generates a field that disrupts the quantum bonds holding matter together. Against normal matter, the effect is limited. Against the unique structure of a devourer, it is devastating. One problem, Dr. Kowalski added. The device must be detonated within 10 kilometers of the devourer's core consciousness. And it is a one-way trip. The pilot who delivers it will not survive. The chamber fell silent. You are proposing a suicide mission, the Arbiter said. We are proposing a chance, Thomas replied. The fleet will engage Apex, draw its attention, create an opening. One ship will carry the Thanatos device into the creature's core. If the plan works, Apex dies, And if it fails? Thomas met the Arbiter's gaze without flinching. Then we will have bought time for the evacuation. Either way, humanity fights. From the highest gallery, the voice of the Nathrani spoke for the second time. The humans speak truth. We have studied the Thanatos device schematics. The theory is sound. The plan has a chance of success. What chance? This Oct demanded. The voice paused. Approximately 17%? 17%? Desok's voice rose to a shriek. You expect us to trust our survival to a 17% chance? Admiral Oilerin stepped to the edge of the platform. Do you have a better option? Your fleets are scattered. Your weapons cannot touch it. In 20 hours, that thing will be here, and it will consume everyone in this chamber. She looked around the galleries, meeting the eyes of species who had hated humanity for decades. We are offering to fight for you. We are offering to die for you. Not because we love you. Not because you deserve it. But because someone has to stand between the darkness and the light. Someone has to be willing to do what needs to be done. Her voice hardened. Humanity has been fighting monsters since we climbed down from the trees. We have killed devourers when your protocol said it was impossible. We have carried weights that would break any other species. And now, when the greatest monster in the galaxy is coming for you, we are offering to fight it. She spread her hands. Accept our help or reject it. Either way, we are going to fight. The only question is whether you will fight beside us or hide behind us. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, Ambassador Morvith rose to his full height. The living stone giant was twice the size of any human, ancient and weathered from centuries of existence. The Morvith have fought humanity 3 times. Each time, we lost. I have never understood how your species could defeat us. Now I begin to see. He bowed his massive head. The Morvith will fight beside you. One by one, other species joined. The Kali, who had accused humanity of theft. The cold ammonia swimmers of Proxima Centauri. The crystalline consciousness of the Void Collective. Even some of the Visari, breaking from their ambassador to pledge support. Within an hour, a coalition had formed. 300 ships from various species, added to humanity's 1,200. Still not enough, but more than anyone had expected. Thomas Reed watched the alliance take shape and allowed himself a moment of hope. Then his communicator buzzed. Ambassador, a voice said urgently, we have a problem. Apex has changed course. Thomas felt his blood run cold. Changed course? To where? It is no longer heading for the Council Station. The voice paused. It is heading for the human diplomatic vessel. The ship carrying Ambassador Webb's delegation. Admiral Oilerin grabbed the communicator. Why would it target our ship? Unknown. But it has accelerated significantly. Estimated arrival at your position in 6 hours. Thomas looked at Oilerin. They both understood what this meant. Apex was not coming for the Council. It was coming for humanity specifically. The creatures had been communicating with each other. They knew who had been hunting them. They knew who had killed their kind. And now the oldest, most powerful devourer in the galaxy was coming for revenge. Get me a channel to the fleet, Thomas said quietly. Tell them the timeline has changed. And tell them to hurry. He looked out through the chamber's transparent walls at the stars beyond. Somewhere in that darkness, a god was coming for them. And humanity had 6 hours to prepare for the fight of their existence. The voice of the Nathrani descended from the highest gallery, moving to stand beside the human delegation. The ancient being had not left that gallery in 4,000 years. I will help, the voice said simply. The Nathrani have technology we have not shared with anyone. Weapons and shields and knowledge from before your species existed. I am authorized to provide it. Thomas stared at the ancient being. Why? Why help us now? The voice made that sound again, the one that might have been laughter. Because you are exactly what we hoped you would be. Terrible, unstoppable, willing to do what must be done. The ancient eyes gleamed. The galaxy needs monsters to fight monsters. We have been waiting 10,000 years for you. Outside the chamber, the stars seemed to grow darker. Apex was coming, and humanity was going to meet it. The human diplomatic vessel Olive Branch was never designed for combat. It carried a crew of 200 light defensive shields and enough weapons to discourage pirates. Against a fully awakened devourer, it should have been nothing more than a target. Captain Daniel Oilerin, nephew of Admiral Grace Oilerin, commanded the ship. He was 31 years old, promoted too fast because humanity needed every capable officer it could find. Now he stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as Apex closed the distance. "Time to contact," he ordered. 4 hours, 17 minutes, his tactical officer replied. "The fleet is still 2 hours out." Daniel nodded grimly. They would have to survive for over 2 hours alone before help arrived. With this ship, with these weapons, open a channel to all hands. His communications officer activated the ship-wide broadcast. "This is the captain. I am sure you have all seen the tactical display. You know what is coming? I am not going to lie to you. Our chances of surviving the next 2 hours are not good." He paused, looking around the bridge at his crew. They were young, most of them. Diplomats and translators and support staff, not soldiers. But they were human. Here is what I know. That thing out there has been hunting conscious minds for millions of years. It has consumed civilizations, erased entire species from existence. And it is coming for us specifically because humanity has been killing its kind. He smiled slightly. I think we should feel proud of that. We made a god angry. How many species can say that? A few nervous laughs echoed through the bridge. The fleet is coming. Our job is to stay alive until they get here. I am going to ask you to do something impossible. I am going to ask you to fight a creature that should be unstoppable. And I am going to ask you to win. He straightened in his chair. Stations, everyone. We have work to do. The next 2 hours were the longest of Daniel's life. Apex entered weapons range at hour 3. The creature was vast, a cloud of corruption and consumed matter that stretched across hundreds of kilometers. At its center, barely visible through the darkness, was the core consciousness, the brain of the ancient god. Daniel had studied the tactics used against previous devourers. The key was speed and precision. Hit the core, destroy it before the creature could react. But those tactics required fleets, hundreds of ships working in coordination. He had one ship. Evasive pattern Delta, he ordered, as the first tendrils of corruption reached toward them. All weapons, target the leading edge. We are not trying to kill it. We are trying to slow it down. The olive branch danced through space, dodging attacks that would have vaporized larger vessels. Daniel had trained his helmsman personally, chosen her for exactly this kind of impossible situation. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka moved the ship like it was an extension of her body, threading through gaps that should not have existed. Their weapons were almost useless against the creature itself. But Daniel was not aiming at Apex. He was aiming at the corrupted ships that surrounded it, the remnants of consumed fleets that served as the devourer's outer defense. Target those Valori cruisers, he ordered. They are blocking our escape route. The weapons officer, a young man named Peter Grant, fired with precision that would have impressed veterans twice his age. The corrupted ships exploded one after another, clearing a path, but for every ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. Apex was learning their patterns, adapting to their tactics. "Captain," Tanaka called out, "we are running out of room to maneuver." Daniel checked the display. She was right. The Devourer's tendrils were closing around them like a fist. In minutes, there would be nowhere left to run. Time until fleet arrival? 47 minutes. Too long. Far too long. Daniel made a decision. Helm, plot a course directly toward the creature's core. Tanaka turned to stare at him. Sir? The ambassador told me something before we left Earth. He said that if it came to this, if we were trapped with no way out, there was a final option. Daniel reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. This is a modified version of the Thanatos device. Smaller, less powerful, designed as a last resort. His weapons officer went pale. Captain, that device would have to be detonated within 2 kilometers of the core. We would never survive. I know. Daniel looked at his crew, these young people who had volunteered for a diplomatic mission and found themselves in a war. I am not ordering anyone to stay. Anyone who wants to evacuate, do it now. Take the escape pods. The fleet will pick you up. No one moved. Sir, Tanaka said quietly, we did not come this far to run. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Pride, grief, love for these impossible humans. Then let us show this god what we are made of. The olive branch accelerated toward the heart of darkness. Apex sensed the approach and turned its full attention to the tiny ship. Tendrils of corruption reached out, trying to grasp, to consume. The ship's shields flared and failed. Hull breaches appeared across multiple decks. Crew members were killed at their stations. Their minds touched briefly by the Devourer before death claimed them, but the ship kept moving. 1 kilometer to core, Tanaka reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. 30 seconds to detonation range. Daniel armed the Thanatos device. His finger hovered over the activation switch. Tell my aunt I did what I had to do, he said to no one in particular. Tell her I was not afraid. 20 seconds. Alarm screamed. The bridge was on fire. Half the crew was dead. 10 seconds. Daniel looked at the core of the Devourer, the heart of a god that had consumed billions, and smiled. Humanity sends its regards. He pressed the switch, and then the fleet arrived. 1,200 human ships tore out of hyperspace in a formation that defied physics. They had pushed their drives beyond safe limits, burned out engines, killed crew members with the stress of acceleration. And they had arrived 45 minutes early. Admiral Grace Oileron commanded from the flagship Indomitable Fury. When she saw the olive branch's position, her nephew's ship at the heart of the Devourer, she understood immediately what was happening. All ships, she ordered, her voice cold and hard. Target the core. Everything you have. Fire. 1,200 ships unleashed their arsenals simultaneously. Antimatter warheads. Kinetic impactors. Plasma lances. Weapons from a dozen different technologies. All converging on a single point. The combined assault tore through Apex's defenses. For one critical moment, the core was exposed, and in that moment, the Thanatos device detonated. The effect was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Reality itself seemed to ripple as the quantum disruption field expanded. The Devourer's matter simply came apart, bonds that had held for millions of years dissolving in an instant. Apex died screaming, its consciousness fragmenting across the psychic spectrum. Every sensitive being within 1,000 light-years felt it. Some collapsed. Some went mad, but most heard only silence. Where there had been hunger, the oldest and most powerful Devourer in the galaxy was dead. It had taken a single human ship to kill it. Aftermath was chaos. Search and rescue operations found the shattered remains of the olive branch drifting among the deb. Reese. Against all odds, 17 crew members had survived, protected in reinforced sections of the ship. Captain Daniel Oilerin was not among them. Admiral Grace Oilerin personally retrieved her nephew's body from the wreckage. She did not cry. She did not speak. She simply carried him to the medical bay and sat with him for an hour. When she emerged, her eyes were dry and her voice was steady. Send a message to Earth Command. Apex is destroyed. Begin cleanup operations. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched the final recordings in stunned silence. They saw the tiny diplomatic vessel charging into the heart of a god. They saw the fleet arrive and attack. They saw the death of something that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. Ambassador Vesok rose slowly from her gallery. Her mandibles were still. Her acid sacs were dry. I move to dismiss all charges against humanity, she said quietly. The vote was unanimous. Thomas Reed accepted the verdict without celebration. There would be time for that later. Now there was too much work to do. The star chart showed over 400 sealed devourers, he reminded the council. We have killed 13. There are still hundreds more. And after today, they know we are coming. He looked around the chamber. Humanity will continue the hunt. We will kill every last one of them if we have to. But we cannot do it alone. The coalition that formed today needs to become permanent. We need your ships, your technology, your people fighting beside us. The voice of the Nethrani descended once more. The Nethrani agree. We will share everything we have. The knowledge of 10,000 years, the weapons of a civilization that once ruled the galaxy. The ancient eyes gleamed. The Devourers were our greatest failure. Let them become our final victory. One by one, the species of the Council joined. Old enemies became allies. Ancient grudges were set aside. For the first time in galactic history, the civilizations of known space united behind a common cause, and at the center of that alliance stood humanity. Small, crude, violent, terrifying, exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months later, Thomas Reed stood on the observation deck of the new command station, watching construction crews work on the fleet that would carry the war to the remaining Devourers. Ships from 100 species, built together, crewed together, ready to fight together. Admiral Grace Oilerin joined him. The first hunting squadron launches tomorrow, she said. 50 ships, heading for the nearest sealed Devourer. Captain Frost is commanding. Thomas nodded. Elena deserves the honor. She has been waiting for this. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Do you think Daniel knew? Grace asked quietly. That the fleet would arrive in time? I think he hoped. But I think he would have done it anyway. Thomas turned to face her. That is what makes us human. We do impossible things because they need to be done. We carry weights that should crush us. We fight gods and monsters and the darkness between stars. He looked back at the construction yard. The galaxy called us monsters. They were right. But sometimes monsters are exactly what you need. Grace nodded slowly. The Devourers thought they were the apex predators of the universe. They fed on civilizations. They consumed gods. She smiled, and it was a cold, fierce thing. They never met humanity. Below them, the fleet took shape. Humanity's answer to the darkness. The weapon that would scour the Devourers from the galaxy forever. It would take decades. It would cost millions of lives. But humanity would not stop. Could not stop because somewhere out there, ancient evils waited in their prisons, counting the days until their seals failed, and humanity was coming for them. All of them, the aliens had, pleaded for help. Humanity had answered with fleet, devastation, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end